Look, I think it's important for anyone that watches Brodie drive a race car. He does different things with it. He's a game-changing driver. Like, he takes things to a different level. He thinks about it a different way. To watch him do his stuff is something I enjoy doing, and the fans do as well.
This is the KTM Summer Grill. I'm Andrew Van Leeuwen, joined by Stefan Bartholomaeus and the young driver whisperer himself, Paul Morris. Paul, thanks for joining us on the KTM Summer Grill.
Always good to be on the KTM Summer Grill.
Oh, you've got the sponsor name in there. Thank you very much. Let's start with your involvement in one of the biggest news stories of the 2024 Australian motorsport season, and that was obviously Brodie Kostecki and Erebus. I think it's fairly well known that you played a pivotal role in helping him go back to the team and get racing in supercars again after missing the first 2 rounds of the season. What can you tell us about how that played out?
Yeah, not a lot really in detail. I think it's Brodie's story to tell, as I've always said, but father figure really, you know. He's a bit of a crisis, and Barry's a dear friend as well, so just help those guys communicate, if anything, and work out a way forward, which after we got together, the clear goal was let's go win Bathurst, and that sort of fixed everything up, didn't it?
Yeah. You obviously have this connection with Brodie through the role you've played in his career. I guess that would have added to the importance of trying to get him back in the car. Is that what sort of drove you to say, hey, I really want to see this guy racing a car as the reigning champion and not sitting on the sidelines?
I think that's a good point, because Brodie's good when he's racing, you know. That's where he's happy. That's what he knows what to do. It's important for him to be driving. Yeah, that's the most important thing in that guy's life. So if he's sitting on the couch, it's not a good place to be.
Was it a strenuous process, or once you actually kind of could sit them down together, did it come together easier than you thought it would?
Yep, pretty easy. Yeah, you just need to open up the communication and work out a way forward. So once you clear away a bit of clutter and work out what you need to do, it's pretty easy and a goal.
Was it important for the sport to have the reigning champion back on the grid as well?
I think so. Look, I think it's important for anyone that watches Brodie drive a race car. He does different things with it. He's a game-changing driver. Like, he takes things to a different level. He thinks about it a different way, and that's partly because of the way he grew up car racing in America, where it can be a bit more extreme and a bit more rough and tumble. He just does things that people don't think he's going to do. So you need that driver in there that is not cookie cutter, because everything's so close. So to watch him do his stuff is something I enjoy doing, and the fans do as well.
When he kind of came back, I guess that probably just because of how incredible his 2023 season was, when he came back and he wasn't immediately running right at the front, it was all like, okay, this is a bit of a shock here. Was it nice to see from Bathurst onwards him be back to that dominant force that he is, to go, right, nothing was lost at any point. He's still the driver that he always was.
Yeah, I think you're right. Did it take him a bit of time to find his feet? Yeah, but he knew what it was. He saw something different with the front of the car. Yep. The Camaro's splitters moved from where it was last year. The balance was a bit different. So he was able to, this is where I think we need to go. And there was obviously some performance from the team that needed to lift, and from himself. But yeah, to see, look, and Broc as well, to see what Broc and him did at Bathurst, like they were just 110% laps for two stints. Was it exciting to watch? For me, it was.
Yeah. It was a different sort of excitement, right? Like, not everything has to be door-to-door racing. That was two
Well,
guys like hammering.
When
it
are they
out.
going to crash?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Like that's
Leaning up on curbs everywhere, like in
it
the
looked like
closing
a sprint
stages.
car in qualifying mode, didn't it?
Yeah.
If you knew the slightest little bit about driving, it was like this is just at another level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did the feeling of watching that compare to when you were watching Chazs take the checkered flag 10 years earlier when you won Bathurst?
Yeah, well, it's completely different. Probably, I was sort of conflicted because I was Broc and Brodie going at it. I'm like, well, one of them's going to win. But yeah, it was a sense of different to when I drove for sure. More like proud of you, of your kid or someone that's dear to you doing a good job. It's a different feeling.
What did you make of Broc's year? In general, there was a lot of expectation on him at the start of the season, and Will Brown ended up taking the championship. Yeah, what do you make of where Broc is now and what he has to do to take that next step?
Yeah, I think Broc's performance was more race wins than anyone. Led a lot more laps than Will. So it's just that little gap in the points. I think Thomas Randall didn't help him out at Tassie a few times. There's a couple of little things that just don't go your way. But what I know about Broc, he turns that into how can I be better? And if you look at his age, he's still only 21. He's got some amazing people around him at 888, the engineering group, and someone like Jamie to lean off. So all those little things which he will take very hard on himself, he will improve. So it'd be awesome to see what he does next year. He will lift himself for sure.
There's a lot of exciting young talent around at the moment, and two young guys going up into the main series next year, Kai Allen and Cooper Murray. You've had a bit to do with both of them. What do you make of those two guys?
Yeah, Kai for sure is super elite. Come out of karting and then winning races in top 3 and 86 straight away, Super 3 straight away, Super 2 straight away. So I think he'll hit the ground running. We saw a couple of little hiccups with him in supercars this year, those crashes, but that's probably not the world's worst thing to happen to him. We saw that with Broc in the wildcard at Bathurst, and sometimes you've just got to hit the wall to work out how not to do it again. You've just got to have it. So did it wreck his Super 2 year? It did, but I think it'll help him next year in his campaign. And a real strong guy like Matt Payne to learn off. It's all there in front of him, and there's no reason he can't get the job done.
So you feel there's enough experience in that team with Matt? Because, I mean, I guess Matt's established himself so quickly in supercars, but he is still a young guy that doesn't necessarily have a complete wealth of experience.
Yeah, well, I think Matt can just get the job done if he has to. When I look at him, things might be quite right, but he doesn't let it affect him. He just goes, if I have to carry the car or drag it or do something a bit different with it, I will. And I think Kai can do that as well. So they might have to think about it a bit different. So, but nothing to lose, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's let's go, and that's what young guys do. They drop the hammer. That's why they send them to war.
Do you like seeing a team take a risk on a driver lineup like that? Like, as someone who works with young drivers and obviously wants to see that progression, you know, there is sometimes criticism of teams that hang on to drivers too long, and here we've got a team that's got two young guys. Like, it's
mainly the hang-ons for commercial reasons, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's sponsorship related, and we need that guy in the team. He brings funding, or the sponsors like him. They get a little bit slow, and in yesteryear could probably hang on and get the result. But the cars are so close now, qualifying so important, hundredths of a second. If a young guy's a little bit quicker, you've got to have a crack at it, or you're just going to be grid filler. So it's not like a NASCAR race where you got time to catch up. But even if you look at cup racing now, you've got to be up the front. Track position's everything. So that's what young guys can bring.
Talk about having a crack. Cooper Murray seems like a young driver that doesn't mind having a crack. We've spoken to Barry on the Summer Grill, and he talked about the fact that, you know, if you let yourself get pushed around too early in your career, that can be that can be a reputation that's hard to recover from. So he's really excited to see how Cooper does. What's your take on Cooper coming in?
Yeah, Cooper's a lot of self-belief when I look at him, and sometimes it can come off looking like a little bit of arrogance, but when you sit down and talk to him, it's not at all. He thinks he's done the work and the job to get there, and he's another guy that's going to lay it all on the table, isn't he? You're not going to wonder what he's going to do with his driving, or is he going to go for a hole? That guy's going to go for it. Something we see in Shane would do too. So he could be one of those intimidating type of drivers where you're looking in the mirror and you go, I know that guy's going to have a shot, you know. Mm-hmm. That's what I see in him.
Yeah.
Anton De Pasquale is another one that came through the Norwell school. He hasn't quite found the success that perhaps we thought he would at Dick Johnson Racing. Why do you think that is, and is the Team 18 move going to be good for him?
I think I don't know exactly why. I know it's not his driving. I think Anton's a phenomenal driver. So if you look at where Davo was and Anton was, they're both not achieving what they needed to achieve. So some big changes in that team to try and get the recipe right. But that's not stuff we've seen before, like Joey Logano getting let by Gibbs and landing at Penske, and next thing he's won 3 titles. So sometimes it's just a change of environment and mixing up different things to see what you need to get. But I think he had to make a move, and he's made it, and it's up to him to get the job done. So there's a lot of pressure on Anton, but I'm confident he can get it done.
And looking at the flip side of that move, which is Brodie going to Dick Johnson Racing, like you said, that team is not where it wants to be. They're trying to build back up. Is this what's going to do that for them, taking Brodie and the other elements that were so successful for Erebus and trying to build on that?
I think the big thing for DJR and Brodie is Brodie super confident of where the problem is in the car. Like it's here. We need to go here. So he can lead an engineering and lead the team to what he needs really specifically to go faster. So that's what they need to find out exactly why they haven't got speed in that car. I'm sure he'll do it.
That engineering understanding, we talk about that in the lens of Brodie so much. When you're guiding young drivers, do you always try and foster that into them? Are there some drivers that just work better as a natural driver and not worrying about the car so much? Where do you sort of sit on that? Is it a case-by-case thing?
Oh, it probably depends on the driver. For Brodie, it's a passion.
Yeah.
If he's not driving it, he wants a spanner in his hand, you know, or measuring something. Or
Adelaide sprint cars. He was down working on sprint cars every night.
Yeah.
You know, like that's just what he loves doing.
That's what he loves doing. So it is an advantage. I'm sure it's an advantage. Would it be an advantage if you're a 888 with all that engineering capacity around you? Could be a little bit, but not so much. If you look at Will Brown and Brodie, they're probably opposite in those.
Yeah.
In that area. So, but yeah, if you're at a team that's not resourced properly in an engineering world, that Brodie's ability is something you need.
So if you still had a 2-car supercars team, which 2 drivers would you be selecting for your team?
Oh, I'd have a chop at anyone. Mm-hmm. Be definitely Broc and definitely be Brodie. Yeah. Clearly. That'd be my dream team for sure.
There's probably reasons why you don't have a supercars team anymore. What's your read on the general health of the sport at the moment?
To me, it's got a bit elitist. So the cost of the cars, the teams are now high net worth individuals that basically have teams, probably from the Stones and Brad, probably the ones that aren't. The sport has evolved that way. So, but if those people can make sure they pick the drivers on ability, not on funding, we should be okay. But the cost of the cars and what they cost to race and the personnel you need, it definitely could have, from my mind, it definitely could have been brought back a step when they had the chance. That's probably the biggest thing that's let get away.
Can you put that genie back in the bottle, or is once it sort of happens, do we have to wait for the whole next rule set?
I think so. Everyone's got $1 million cars now, haven't they? And they're spraying them at the fence and putting them back together. So the teams are just going to get on with racing.
do we at least take some sort of solace from the fact that, like, MSR had a great year? Like you say, they're one of the more kind of, I don't want to say backyard teams, but I think they're the first to admit they're a race team, and that's it. There's nothing showy about how they go about the business, and they're out there winning races this year. So it is still possible for teams with that attitude to have success in supercars.
Yeah, it is for sure, and it always sort of has been. Those major teams will always take up the front of the grid, but even at Erebus, they're not resourced as much as, say, 888 would be in the engineering department, like a lot different in size. So the big thing will be, how will they go without Brodie, and how will DGR go with Brodie? So be interesting to watch. There's a lot of pressure on the boy.
What about the actual on-track product itself and the show? Do you think this final system is going to change anything about the way the season unfolds?
It'll definitely change it for sure. You'll need to be on top of your game at the end of the year. You need to qualify up front, and you're just going to need to drop the hammer. So probably should suit Broc a bit. You know, he should be able to fire. Those guys that can fire up. The big thing for me will be what's going to happen with the interference with your teammate and how that will play out, because your teammate and other teams can have a really big effect on that small 4 races to the end of the championship. So, and the rules of engagement for race control on how you race each other, they're going to open that up a bit more. Like if you're sitting on the bubble, you're just going to have a crack at passing someone or moving someone, and then how will that play out when they review how you race?
These sound like good problems to have, though, right?
Well, it depends how they police it. I think if you introduce a finals system like that, you're going to have to let the guys race harder.
Yeah,
you're going to have to, because if you don't, it doesn't create the excitement. If you're just going to follow someone around and can't get past them and park it on the bottom, and for me, it's got to be if you block for 2 corners and you get moved out of the way, well, that's your bad luck. You know, you've got to open it up a bit, or what's the point of creating the drama if you can't have the action?
Yeah. One interesting point that Will Brown made when we spoke to him on the Summer Grill was, it's also interesting that we tend to set up our calendar where we go to the same place as the last round regularly. You know, Adelaide has cemented itself as the last round on the supercars calendar. It's a great event. It's perfect for it. But his point was kind of like, I think what he didn't say is Broc's really good at Adelaide, so maybe that's a bit of an advantage when it comes to a winner-takes-all scenario at that particular circuit. It's not a rotation at circuits, so maybe a driver being good at a particular circuit is going to have its say in the finals as well.
For sure, and we've seen that with NASCAR, haven't we?
Yeah.
The drivers that are good at certain tracks, if I can just sneak through to Martinsville, I should get into the playoffs or make it to the next round. So that will definitely make a play. There'll be more focus on those last rounds.
There might be a few drivers making a few calls about Norwell availability in the days leading up to some of those last events, I think, to get some laps in.
You might have to change the layout so it looks like Adelaide.
If you're in the playoffs for the Supercar Championship, you probably don't need my help.
What about Nash? What's he up to in 2025? What's the plans?
No solid plans yet, but he's pretty fortunate. He's got Scotty Taylor in his corner, and they've got a really good relationship, and they want to continue going racing. But they haven't finalised what they're doing yet, but they are going to race something, and it's been good for me having Scott there. It's allowed me to step back, and I've always probably helped more people than I've helped Nash, but I want him to be his own man and stand on his own 2 feet and work it out for himself, which he seems to be doing.
Did that sort of need to happen at some point, that sort of bit of separation?
Yeah, I think so. And look, I'm probably guilty of not putting the best stuff around him as well, making it a bit hard for him, seeing if he does really want to do it. So, and a father and son relationship in that sporting environment's always a bit hard to deal with. So, yeah, it's been awesome to meet. And Ash Seward's been great this year. Alex Davison's been there as well. So there's some really good people there. I could just go off and do what I needed to do and let them get on with it. They've had a pretty good year.
What's your view on the state of the ladder system itself for young drivers trying to get to supercars? There's a lot of categories there, and there's a lot of cost to try to find the money to get to the top.
Yeah, Look, the Toyota 86 thing's been great. And the funding that Toyota put into that, and the resources Neil Crompton and his team put into that to make sure that's simple and as it can be for kids to go racing professionally, has been good. You can turn up there with your dad and a toolbox and be capable of winning a car race, which is good. The next step from there is a big one. So, but we have seen people go from Super 2, from Toyota 06 straight to Super 2 and do well. It's just the financial hurdle that's ridiculous. So to find $100,000 a race for some people, and most people, it's a big stretch. So there's a gap in between there that probably needs something. Something like Trans Am would be good if that could get a bit more eyes on it, and you can go racing there and win for 150, 200 grand, and that's sort of where it needs to be. Super 2 is a bit of a stretch.
And I guess there's sort of like that Trans Am, those cars are quite good for driver development just because they're difficult to drive as well.
Yeah, big car, manual gearbox, hard to handle. It's the big thing for me with a Trans Am car, if you whack the thing, it's not a crisis. You're not selling the house.
Yeah.
You're capable of fixing it. So, but that Super 2 stuff is, you can see someone like Jared Hughes, when he's racing that car, he's not racing how he'd normally race because how the hell is he going to fix the thing?
Yeah.
So collectively we should be doing something about that, but it's the main game teams that control most of those cars and parts and how that filters down, and that Super 2's always been a bit of a dumping ground for the old gear. So, but it's a lot of stress on a lot of people.
Would supercars benefit from having a tyre like on the Trans Am? I mean, they're pretty spectacular the way they move around on that bag tyre.
Oh, they probably just benefit from having Trans Am and take the whole lot.
Yeah.
That should be Super 3, you know. If that would be a decision where we go, why don't we just put our arm around that and make that Super 3? That would make a lot of sense to me.
And just to finish up, your own racing plans for 2025? We're going to see you having a skid somewhere?
Yeah, probably here and there. I think I did a bit of GT trophy class with Scott Taylor. He said we'll probably get that Porsche out one or two times and have a bit of a skid round in that. So maybe a little bit of GT4 stuff with Pappas. So, yeah, nothing too strenuous, mate. Just have a bit of a skid round. I raced a dirt modified.
Yep.
Month or two back. Really love that, so I'd like to do a little bit more of that. Bit of stuff on the dirt.
You actually got to race with Nash in GT4 this year.
Yeah,
Was that enjoyable?
Well, I thought it was really cool, and I don't think he got the significance of it. So he'll probably look back when he's my age and go, "Oh, that was all right."
Perfect. Well, thanks for joining us, Paul, and best of luck for whatever comes your way in 2025.
Cool, and thanks for everything you do for the sport, mate. It's that you guys, wouldn't be as good as it is. So appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to the KTM Summer Grill. With each episode, we are giving away one of these cool KTM goodie bags. Don't miss your chance to win. If you're watching via Speak Cafe, enter your details below. If you're watching on YouTube, the link is in the description.